Welcome to Fiberstar Citri-Fi 125 Natural Citrus Fiber and Food Applications webinar. We want to thank you for attending the session and we appreciate your feedback. Before we start, I'd like to cover a few webinar service items. This webinar is needed to provide you the highest audio quality. There are two ways to access the audio section of this webinar. The first is to use your computer microphone and speakers, or secondly, you can also call in on the telephone. This webinar will be recorded and available to you after 3 sessions have been broadcasted. And there will be 3 poll questions during this webinar. These poll questions will be spread throughout the session, and answers to these poll questions will be shared to keep you informed about the market trends. You can ask questions at any time during the webinar. Please locate your question box, type directly into the box, and push submit. These questions will be answered at the end of the session, and if you have additional questions, please contact your Fiberstar sales manager. A survey will follow this webinar. Please take a moment to fill this out, as this information will be used to improve future webinars. Now I'd like to introduce the webinar speakers today. The first speaker is me, Jennifer Stevens. I currently manage Fiberstar's Marketing Communications program. My 18-year tenure includes food applications research, market analysis, and marketing communications for water management ingredients, such as starches, gums, and fibers sold into the human and pet food industries. Today I'll review global market trends within meats, bakery, spreads, and other food products. After reviewing the market dynamics, I'll briefly review the Citri-Fi product line, which includes the 100, 125, 200, and 300 series. Our other technical speaker today is Nisha Zelzny, a Fiberstar Technical Sales Manager. Nisha's expertise resides in gums like alginates, pectins, CMC, xanthan, and gellan gums used in beverage, dairy, salad dressings, sauces, and bakery applications. Mrs. Zelzny's extensive experience provides her the expertise in providing superior customer technical service and sales support. So let's get started. Today we'll be covering the global market trends within meats, bakery, beverages, snacks, fry-coated foods, and spreads, and review the Citri-Fi portfolio. The technical review will cover Citri-Fi 125's composition and functional mechanisms. Successful applications and potential uses from the Student Innovation Contest will also be included. This overview will be followed by a summary and a Q&A. In the United States and Canada, cost and health continue to drive the trends within each of the food categories. The meat category focuses mostly on the cost reductions by way of yield improvements and reduced purge. Clean label is a smaller market which can include cleaner label antimicrobial systems to chemical binder replacements. The recent Natural Product Expo West in the United States highlighted several trends within beverages, bakery, and snacks. For instance, clean label coffee beverages and plant-based milk beverages are a hot ticket item in the United States. Bakery is getting a healthy makeover with the use of ancient grains, whole grain, chia seed, quinoa, and other natural health-oriented ingredients. Gluten-free continues to grow. Most recent activity entails developers looking to remove xanthan gum due to its negative perception amongst the gluten-free consumer base. Egg markets are stable. However, there's a trend for eggless dressings, especially for the vegan, vegetarian, and allergen-free markets. Healthier snacks are still hot and growing. The paleo diet, which excludes grains, are driving some of this trend. There's a plethora of new product introductions, including fruit and vegetable-infused snacks, and meat snacks like jerkies, strips, sticks, and chews. In Europe, cost and health and clean label drive most of these trends. There's still a push to remove E-number ingredients. This is driven by the need for more natural food products. In some markets, highly extended meats are produced for cost savings. On the other hand, there's still a market for high-quality meats. Newer developments are in the meat-free category. There are now animal-free meats hitting the shelves. Vegan, vegetarian, and health-conscious consumers are driving the need for meat analog versions of the real thing. Gluten-free bakery is still growing, and now vegan labeling is becoming popular in some parts of Europe. Reducing fried-coated foods, oil pickup is a need to provide potential cost savings on the processor side and to improve the nutritional profile. Snacks continue to innovate with vegan on the rise. There are some vegetable-based snacks, fruit inclusions, and nutrition and chocolate bars. Smoothies on the go products are growing in numbers and types which appeal to the nutrition and convenience-minded. In Central and South America, cost is key. Some customers are investigating phosphate replacement systems and meat extension in processed meats. The bakery segment is focused on cost reduction strategies, which include reducing the use of more costly ingredients like egg, oil, animal fat, or other unique fruits in some regions. Reducing oil uptake in fried foods is another way to reduce oil usage on the processor's end, which could equate to cost savings. Asia contains many countries and regions which have their own market trends. In parts of Asia, healthier meats means fat and sodium reduction. Within the bakery category, some healthy trends include the use of chia seed, granola, less salt, and less oil. Egg extensions depends on the cost savings associated with the system. A happening trend in beverages involves the 3-in-1 coffee mixes, such as white coffee, mocha, and cappuccino. Extending the creamer system provides potential cost savings, as well as improved nutritional profile, which means less fat. Another beverage subsegment includes coconut milks. There are efforts to extend coconut for cost savings, as well as to improve texture by replacing modified starches. Coconut extension in sauces and pastes is popular in some regions. Natural emulsifiers to replace sugar ester or monodiglycerides is another area of interest. In snacks, one of the growing health trends is reduced sodium. Other healthy-oriented snacks are incorporating fruits. And in some regions, manufacturers look to reduce the oil usage for cost savings when frying certain types of snacks. Fried coated foods are growing in popularity, such as fried coated chicken and seafood, using a tempura-like batter with a crunchy texture. Once again, reduced oil uptake provides processors potential cost savings. In Australia and New Zealand, there are a few trends. Meat extensions also a segment here for the lower quality meats. And like Europe, animal-free or vegetarian meat products like patties and links are growing. Developers look to reduce calories by oil reduction in some backed goods. Gluten-free is a small segment. However, those who are producing products are taking advantage of the demand overseas, so they start to export. Due to the escalating egg costs from markets like cage-free, egg extension systems are growing in popularity. Cost-saving tactics like reducing oil uptake in fry-coated products and extending coconut in cooking sauces are also strategies some manufacturers are using. Within the fruit-based spreads, cost reduction and natural are on the rise. Manufacturers are looking at new and more natural textural ingredients, as well as introducing new unique fruits such as passion fruit, kiwi, and pineapple. Now that we've reviewed some of the trends affecting the global markets, let's do a quick review of the Fiberstar portfolio. Fiberstar offers 10 product types differentiated by the composition and particle size. As you can see, these products can be used in various food products, including meats, bakery, beverages, sauces, dressings, dairy, and other food products. This matrix outlines the different product lines and their uses across applications. Depending on the product developer goals, such as labeling, regulatory, cost savings, or functional benefits within the food application, the recommended Citri-Fi product will vary. R&D and the technical service team are excellent resources to use in determining which Citri-Fi product is the most fit for your situation. We've come to our first poll question of the webinar, so I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. The poll question is, which food product categories below are seeing a lot of product development activity in your region? You can choose more than one answer: bakery, dressing and sauces, beverages, snacks, and meats. We have almost everyone voted, so I'm going to give it a couple more seconds. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, and let's take a look at the results. Well, it looks like all the categories are getting a lot of product development activity. Some of the top ones include the bakery, meats, and snacks. Dressing sauces aren't far behind either. So thank you for participating in the poll question. Now let's move on to the technical review. Nisha, thanks for joining us today. I'm going to hand this off to you.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Jenny, and thanks to everybody for attending. Today, I'm going to talk about the structure and function of Citri-Fi 125 and then cover how this relates to applications. As a reminder, you can type any questions you have to the right in the boxes on the right, and we will address them at the end of the webinar. In our most basic testing, these are some of the different characteristics of the PO products so far. Citri-Fi 125 has a higher fiber amount, especially the soluble fiber. Because of this higher soluble fiber, 125 has a higher water holding capacity. For example, in bakery batters, once hydrated, it is proving to have a higher viscosity than other citrus fibers. But don't forget that the functional effects of Citri-Fi are not just the sum of its parts, but rather how the chemistries of the two types of fiber and the protein interact and work together in the food application. Looking to the literature first, we see that pectin has some history of being used as an emulsifier. This paper shows how pectin can work in tandem with protein to stabilize oil. In this case, the protein has hydrophobic areas that coat the surface of the oil. In this model, the pectin then clings to the protein because of the pectin's negative charge. This attracts the positive charges on the protein. The type of pectin in the Citri-Fi is typically the more methylated pectin. HM pectin, as it's often referred to, is more hydrophobic than other types of pectin. This makes it tend to form tiny gel regions in the water, as opposed to LM pectin, which is more freely soluble in water. So let's move on to the next slide, and we'll apply some of this chemistry and see what's actually going on with 125 specifically. This is a look at the structure of a Citri-Fi 125 particle up close. Just to get oriented, I would like to point out a couple of features that are visible. First, look at the image, and you can see some of our patented process being at play here. It's created some roughed up spots, you can see up in here, and holes in the outer surface. Here's some holes on the outer surface of the fiber. This is important because it gives oil and water better access to the structure inside the fiber. Another common feature are the natural striations. Now we've seen these on other microscopic images, but in this image we have specifically stained for protein, proving that protein is lining those channels. To be sure, not all the protein stays stuck in those striations. Some of it gets released and works together with soluble pectin to help stabilize foams. This can be advantageous in applications like bakery, or it could cause negative issues with too much foaming in dairy production. Okay, but you might ask what the significance of these weird striations are. Let's take a look at the next slide. A picture is worth 1,000 words, so please take a close look at this image of a simple water and oil emulsion with Citri-Fi 125. We have used some special dyes to locate where the pectin, the oil, and the insoluble cell wall fragments are. If you look at the picture, the green is the insoluble fiber. The blue, there's small blue dots dotted throughout the picture. That's the soluble fiber, or the pectin. And the red is the oil. Because of its unique composition, Citri-Fi has the ability to emulsify fat. Citri-Fi has those hydrophilic and lipophilic portions on the same particle. And typical food emulsions in the food industry, like mayonnaise, have abundance of perfectly round oil droplets. These are typically made with very high shear and with a chemical emulsifier or a natural emulsifier like that found in egg. There's a couple of those perfectly round oil droplets in this picture as well. You can see them here. If you look beyond those bright spots, though, you can see that the magic is happening in the backgrounds. Here we've magnified the picture a little. If you look carefully, there are little red lines within the green fibers. These protein-filled striations are soaking up the oil, and it happens quite passively without a lot of shear or energy. The oil really wants to be in those little capillaries. And meanwhile, the particle is still absorbing water all around. The other thing worth noting here is the little blue globs. You can see them here in the magnified picture. These pectin globs are dotted all around the green fiber. And this type of structure is the key for the reknitable texture of the emulsion. This means that the texture will not be destroyed upon pumping or screening, unlike most other hydrocolloid systems. If you like, you can think of these little blue dots as weak Velcro tabs that can adhere and release and reattach to the fibers. Hopefully now you have some idea of what a unique and versatile product Citri-Fi 125 is. Let's move on and look at some application work. So how does the unique structure and function affect some of our most successful applications? We're going to review ground meat, beverages, oil-reduced and gluten-free muffins, and reduced egg cakes. Let's first take a look at 125 in ground meat. This is a prime example of how the structure and function can benefit applications. The hydrophilic portion of the molecule binds the water, reducing purge. The emulsification properties bind fat, so there's an increase in cooked yield and a moist, juicy texture in the finished product. Other applications that could be benefited could be meat fillings, meat analogs, and reformed meat. In fact, Citri-Fi 125 is currently being successfully used in a rolled taco filling here in the U.S. Our customer is using 125 to add texture and reduce fatting out during the deposit and cook process of their rolled taco. We are showcasing beef here, but the results were also very good with pork. This first study was conducted at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Citri-Fi was included at 1% of the formula weight with an additional 6.5% of water added. The beef and the water were combined, and the Citri-Fi 125 was gradually added last. Citri-Fi 125 increased the raw yield by reducing purge. The raw ground meat was packaged and held for 96 hours while sitting on drip pads. At the end of the 96 hours, the drip pads were measured, and the control was found to have lost 3.5 grams of moisture out of 1 pound. The addition of Citri-Fi 125, the purge dropped to only 0.4 grams. Here you can see the raw data of the yield as well. 1% Citri-Fi 125 plus water resulted in an improved raw yield, an improved cook yield, and an increase in the moisture levels. In the U.S., manufacturers can save 4 to 6 cents a pound by reducing the meat block in the formulation. After the product was cooked, the samples were tested by a sensory panel. Panelists indicated an overall preference for the product with 125 as it was more moist. The next study we're going to look at was conducted at the University of Iowa, again with ground beef. In this study, Citri-Fi 125 was added with varying amounts of water to ground beef. Take particular note of the amount of ground beef added to each iteration of the formula. If you'll notice, trial 1, the control, has the highest amount of ground beef. Depending on meat prices in your country, trial 1 will have the highest associated cost. Let's take a look at the cookup results. As you can see, the trials with added Citri-Fi 125 had yields only slightly lower than the control, but this was with an incredibly large reduction of meat block. What was of particular interest, however, was the sensory results. Because of the structure and the function of Citri-Fi, the experimental samples were juicier and had a better texture than the control with more meat block. What really stands out was that the panelists who tasted the samples preferred the Citri-Fi 125 samples. The most common comment on these samples was that the flavor of the beef was enhanced over the control. Citri-Fi 125 is a great option when working with ground meat. As with most gums, the key to its functionality is good dispersion and hydration. Dry blend Citri-Fi 125 with other dry ingredients and mix well. Cost savings come from the addition of water to the system, which decreases the amount of meat block required for the finished product. Using Citri-Fi 125 in these systems will give a similar yield to the products with more meat and still have great consumer acceptance. Next, we're going to look at some beverage work done recently at the University of Minnesota. Carrageenan replacement has been a very popular request for the past year. Carrageenan is a very functional stabilizer in many neutral and dairy-based beverages, but has fallen out of favor for use across the globe. One of the few ingredients that can replace carrageenan in neutral beverages is high-acyl gel gum. High-acyl gel gum forms a fluid gel that suspends cocoa and other non-soluble particles with ease. But over time, it can begin to associate more strongly with itself. The fluid gel network tightens in on itself and actually starts pushing out water. This causes a clear serum layer to form on the top of the beverage. Citri-Fi provides a unique solution to this problem. The Citri-Fi particle acts as a network spacer, which inhibits the fluid gel network from tightening up on itself. This is the formulation that we used. These samples were run through a microthermix under UHT conditions and bottled into sterile bottles. The resulting beverages were all stable initially. When measured for viscosity on the Brookfield, it's apparent that this Citri-Fi sample, this sample added with added Citri-Fi had an increase in viscosity. And this was perceived as an increase in creaminess. As expected over time, the control sample with gel-N alone did develop that slight clear layer at the top of the sample, and the one with Citri-Fi did not. The product stabilized and Citri-Fi 125 had a very clean mouthfeel and was preferred among coffee drinkers. Tasters commented that the mocha flavor was stronger than the other samples. Citri-Fi 100 samples had a nice creamy mouthfeel, but in this system, 100 flavor masked more than the Citri-Fi 125 sample. To summarize the beverage work, Citri-Fi is a great option to use with high-acyl gel gum fluid gel systems, and it has the added benefit of enhancing chocolate or coffee flavors. Okay, at this point, Jenny has our next poll question.
Thanks, Nisha. So we've come to our second poll question today. I'm going to go ahead and launch the question. The question is, which beverage ingredients below are you trying to replace due to cost and or labeling? Carrageenan, xanthan gum, modified starches, emulsifiers like mono and diglycerides, phosphates, and you can choose more than one. almost everyone voted. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, and let's take a look at the results. So as you can see here, one of the popular ingredients being looked at to be replaced is carrageenan. Kind of coincides with what Nisha was mentioning before a couple slides back. The second ingredient, or ingredient category I should say, is the emulsifiers. And then the other three come in shortly behind. Thank you so much for participating. Now I'm going to hand this back to Nisha so that we can finish out the technical session.
Thanks, Jen. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about is oil reduction in baked goods. Many of you have used the 100 series products for oil reduction before. 125 is another tool in the arsenal. 125 gives us more flexibility in bakery solutions, and this is for two reasons. The first is 125 can be used at a lower rate, so the cost can go down when compared with 100. The addition of 125 allows us a more specialized response to oil reduction and moisture management in bakery. Citri-Fi 100 and 125 are both viable options but perform slightly differently. The water absorption rates are different between 100 and 125. This can be advantageous in different types of formulations. Generally, Citri-Fi 125 or 100 will work, but there are a couple of small performance differences that may make 125 a better choice. If a formulation is using other hygroscopic ingredients like starches or other hydrocolloids, 100 will hold its own in competing for the available water. But if other hygroscopic ingredients are not at play, 125 can be the better choice. This is especially true for processes that use high shear. There will be situations that 125 as a slower hydrator can be successful and be less expensive. As you can tell with this formulation, 125 uses about half of the recommended amount of 100. This muffin mix was pretty low in sugar. A higher ratio cake may actually require 100 due to the competition for the available water. You can see the test results indicate exactly what oil reduction with Citri-Fi 125 products can do. Baking loss is reduced and the height of the muffin is greater than the full fat control. The sensory data indicates that the Citri-Fi sample had better cohesiveness and better moistness after 7 days. The samples retained more water over the shelf life than the full fat control as well. The important thing to remember here is that 100 and 125 can perform equally if in the correct environment. Use 125 for cost savings because of that higher water ratio, with the option of 100 if their formula needs quicker hydration. Next, we're featuring gluten-free muffins, but this technology is applicable to moisture management across the baked goods category. Like with oil reduction, the advantage of having the 100 or the 125 is the flexibility allowed by absorption rates and the cost savings available with 125. If you'll recall, many of the gluten-free formulations we have been testing use a similar amount of 100 versus 125. But with the 125, you can stretch the addition of water higher. The muffins with 125 have a slightly higher volume than the control and less baking loss. And the sensory is what we would expect to see with 100 or 125 in baked goods. Similar to the control, but a little more preferred. The Citri-Fi samples had more cohesiveness and more moisture. Again, these samples retained that moisture more over time. Next, we're going to talk about egg reduction. 125 replaces up to 20% egg at a higher water use rate for cost savings. 125 offers two other benefits that we haven't been able to offer in egg replacement before, and this is what makes 125 FG or 125 M40 great additions to the portfolio for egg replacement. First, Citri-Fi 125 is 100% natural for those who are looking for no E number or have customers that do not want label declarations to say guar gum. Now, we have an egg replacement solution for that niche. Second, as was mentioned before, due to its unique protein content and structure, 125 can stabilize foam. This is of particular benefit for high-ratio cakes, running through continuous mixing using a mixer like an Oaks mixer for batter aeration. This machinery is widely used in the United States and takes the mixed batter from the production line, runs it under pressure to pump air into the batter. The resulting batter that goes into the pans for baking is very airy and light. The unique ability of 125 to stabilize the foam is exactly what is needed for these baked goods to achieve the volume of the full egg control. If we take a look at the formulation of this cake, we see that the water level is higher than the control. For this experiment, we use Citri-Fi 125 FG, but if the batter is going to be aerated in an Oaks mixer, we recommend switching and using Citri-Fi 125 M40. Here we see, Here we see the results in height and cook loss. We achieved great volume with slightly less cook loss with the 125 as compared with the whole egg control. Sensory preferences again land very close, but 125 is clearly moister and more cohesive. And again, the sample retains more moisture over time. So as a brief review, the food applications we are targeting with 125 are ground meat, beverages, oil reduction in bakery, moisture management for bakery and especially in the gluten-free category, egg reduction in bakery, including aerated batter, Stay tuned for our next development using Citri-Fi 125 to extend tomato paste. The last thing we want to share were the winning projects from last year's Citri-Fi 125 contest. In this contest, undergraduate students from across the world were asked to create and submit new applications using 125. All of our entries were amazing in their own way. Unfortunately, we only have time to cover the top prize winners. The grand prize winner was a project from Oregon State University. This group looked at Citri-Fi as a tool to decrease the amount of oil absorbed in fried fish. They were able to statistically prove that increased amounts of Citri-Fi in the pre-dust and the breading correlated to decreased fat absorption. They also found that using 0.5% of Citri-Fi 125 in the pre-dust step produced a significantly crispier texture in the finished product. The first runner-up project was from Surya University in Indonesia. This project used Citri-Fi 125 to partially replace coconut milk in laksa paste, commonly used in curry dishes in the region. Reducing the coconut milk reduced the cost and the amount of saturated fat. There were two formulations that were successful in sensory testing. The student noted a color difference between the 125 and the control, but was able to add more red curry as a workaround. This technology can be easily applied to many different sauces across the globe. The next runner-up was a project done by Washington State University. Students created a unique pork snack using Citri-Fi 125. The students found that Citri-Fi 125 could reduce the fat in the system, and Citri-Fi 125 sample was found to be the same as the full fat control when tested by an untrained sensory panel. The next project is from the University of Guelph in Canada. This student showed how calcium fortification of Citri-Fi 125 enhances the mouthfeel and viscosity properties. They found that dry blending Citri-Fi 125 with calcium carbonate improved the sedimentation, increased the viscosity, and reduced the gritty mouthfeel of the FG product. The next contest-winning project came from Cornell University. These students found that Citri-Fi 125 could be used to stabilize a natural color system of a healthy snack made with purple yams and mixed berries. They found the color of the samples made with 125 was significantly more stable than the negative control. I'd like to personally congratulate all of our contest winners. They did a fantastic job. We have covered a lot of information today, especially in regards to the technical aspects of working with 125. We talked about the water holding capacity being higher than, of 125 being greater than Citri-Fi 100, so it's possible to use less in your formulation. This can help reduce costs significantly. Citri-Fi 125 is a great tool for helping with moisture management, fat and egg reduction, and help improve yields. If you have any questions, please contact us. I'm going to turn it back to Jenny for the last poll question.
Thanks, Nisha. Now we're going to go to the last poll question for today. I'm going to go ahead and launch the question. The question is, which food product categories do you believe Citri-Fi 125 would have the highest sales potential in your regions? Once again, you can choose more than one answer. It says meats, bakery, fried coated foods, beverages, or snacks. Looks like we have almost everyone voted, so I'm going to give it a couple more seconds. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, and let's take a look at the results. So you can see here, meats and bakery look like ideal spots for the Citri-Fi 125. Thanks for participating in that poll question. So this concludes today's session, and I'd like to thank you once again for attending today's webinar. Please contact your Fiberstar sales manager if you have additional questions. Also, please feel free to contact other team members if need be by using the contact information on this slide. We're now going to move to the Q&A part of this session, and we're going to try to get through as many questions as we can. If we end up running out of time or questions, before all the questions are answered, a Fiberstar sales manager or technical service manager will follow up with you in regards to your inquiries. So let's go ahead and take the first question. First question is, what is the difference in color and taste compared to the pulp product?
Well, the 125 is based on peel, and that peel has been washed within an inch of its life with water. But it does tend to show up darker than the 100 products. It also does have some flavonoids that are left over in the pulp itself or in the peel itself, and this does contribute to the flavor. These flavonoids can actually be used to enhance flavors in meats, in chocolate, in coffee. So anywhere you're going to have a very clean label, you're going to want to not use 125. But anywhere where there's a possibility that the flavonoids can actually enhance the flavor, try the 125. It does enhance very well.
Thanks, Nisha. We have another question. Is Citri-Fi 125 going to be available with guar and xanthan like the 100 products?
Well, we don't have any current plans to extend our product range right now.
Okay. This question is in regards to the foaming comments you made in the baking section.
Mm-hmm.
So it says, what about foaming properties in beverages?
Well, we could enhance the foam in, say you're going to add it to possibly a dry mix with foam dried milk in it. We can enhance that foam, but I don't know that it would stabilize a foam in a ready-to-drink product over that much time. Does that make sense?
Okay. If it doesn't, they'll write in more.
Okay.
The next question. Both 100 and 125 are said to have fairly neutral flavor. It would seem that the 125, since it's derived from peel, might have a citrus note. Is this true?
Absolutely. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit prior. The flavonoids in the peel there's still some residual there, so there is a flavor associated with the 125. But again, this can be used to your advantage if you're putting them into meat, into chocolate, into coffee, and of course into tomato products that already have flavonoids in them.
So are you saying that it tastes like citrus then? Because that's what the question was.
I don't know that it tastes overly citrusy, I think, but there is a flavor associated.
Okay.
To me, it's not citrus. It's something in that family, though.
Okay. Okay. I have another question. In several applications, you have demonstrated the ability of Citri-Fi to retain moisture. Can you talk about what happens to the water activity in products, especially as it relates to shelf life extension?
Sure. We have done some testing here that indicates that Citri-Fi does not really lower the water activity. So if you have a product that has a very long shelf life, Citri-Fi will help you manage the moisture that is in that system, but it won't reduce the water activity. So you've got to be very aware of that.
Okay. The next question is, how about for yogurt production? Can we add Citri-Fi 125 during the fermentation of the milk with the culture?
Okay, for yogurt production, this is where that foaming property comes into play. That yogurt generates quite a bit of foam kind of naturally, that fermentation process. We do not recommend Citri-Fi 125 for yogurt, for a standard yogurt. Perhaps if you were going to do a yogurt mousse, you might be able to use it in that type of a product, but be aware that there are some color issues. So if you're adding Citri-Fi to a white yogurt mousse, it may show up. We don't really recommend it for dairy products for that reason.
Okay. There's another question about the fried foods versus meat applications. So you said you've talked about fat retention in meat applications such as taco meat, showing Citri-Fi's ability to hang on to fat. At the same time, you've talked about Citri-Fi's use to reduce fat uptake in fried products. It seems these are opposing relationships of fat. One hangs onto it while the other one repels it. Can you explain this?
I don't know that I can explain it that well. That was the study done by the University of Oregon, and I think that if you'd like more information, I would love to send you the actual study so that you can kind of read through it yourself. But I think what's at play here is the amount of water added to the system. I think that there's a lot going on in a fried system, and I don't think I could explain it to you in the 2 seconds that I have to answer questions, but I will get your information and try and send that study on to you.
Okay, cool. I'll pipe in. Actually, I've done a lot of fried work when I was in R&D back in the day. And like I said, that Nisha's right. This is a university study, but a lot of the fat uptake in fried system is due to several factors. But one of the main ones is, especially in a coated system, is that the smoother the coating, the less oil pickup. So hypothetically, our Citri-Fiber, in conjunction with its composition and what other ingredients are in the coating system, if it does smooth out that coating, it does reduce the oil pickup. So it's a systems approach to it. So that was one thing I have learned when I was doing a lot of fried work for some of the potato processor guys. But so that could be. But yeah, definitely reach back in and we can explain it, because it is two different types of mechanisms going on in terms of meat applications and surface area, and then when you're talking about coatings on a fried product. Okay, next question. Because normally we add pectin, can I use Citri-Fi instead? This goes back to the question with yogurt.
You can, yeah, absolutely, but use the 100 product. That product does not stabilize foam, but you absolutely can use Citri-Fi 100 for yogurt.
Okay, great. I have another question. This has to do with egg reduction in bakery. So for egg reduction, is it better to use the 125 or the 200 FG?
Well, that depends on if the batter is aerated. Like we talked about before, if the batter is highly aerated, say in an Oaks mixer, you're going to want to use the 125 product because the guar isn't that great for stabilizing foam. But if it's not an aerated batter, then the Citri-Fi Citri-Fi 200 is going to be the better choice for you.
Okay. I have another question. What is the country of origin labeling?
Well, all of our things are manufactured in the United States. So country of origin for 125 is U.S.
Okay. I have another question. This has to do with meat kebabs. So is the 100 or 125 the best option for, I'm going to not pronounce this right, but is it doner kebabs? Also, is better to inject or mix it with the spices?
So we recommend injection, but there are applications where you can mix it in with the spices and have the spices stick to the surface of the meat better. So it kind of depends on what you're wanting to accomplish. Injected, I would use the Citri-Fi 125 M40 and inject that directly into whole muscle.
Okay. We have another question. Will Citri-Fi 125 work in emulsified meats?
It will. It does have that great protein and pectin interaction, so it works very well in emulsified meats, and it can help reduce oiling off. It can help keep it from drying out during cook. Just be careful because you don't want to use an excessive amount of Citri-Fi 125. We've found that this causes mushiness, so definitely keep your use levels on the lower side.
Okay. Is the Citri-Fi 125 made the same way as Citri-Fi 100?
It is made the same way. We obtain the peel from peel manufacturers, and we take it in, and it's processed on the same lines and in the same way as the pulp products.
Okay. The next question, can you talk about Citri-Fi's ability to provide free-thaw stability?
Sure. Because of the way that we hold on to the water, and we are very thermostable, So it does not allow the water to release and then form large ice crystals. So in this way, we can keep the ice crystals from disrupting the structure of the food, and this increases the freeze-thaw stability.
Okay, this question has to do with a beverage. Can Citri-Fi also replace carrageenan in cold drinkable choco milk? In the Netherlands, it's needed to shake the milk before use. Can Citri-Fi help to avoid having to shake the milk?
Let's see. If it's a ready-to-drink, well, we recommend a systems approach because carrageenan is used in most of the cold, ready-to-drink chocolate milks, and we recommend that high acyl gel and gum plus Citri-Fi to help to suspend everything and then to keep it all, and then to have a nice mouthfeel. So if you shake it now, then chances are you could use Citri-Fi as a mouthfeel enhancement, but other than that, it wouldn't. It would make the cocoa drop to the bottom. Some countries, I know that's a really good thing. That's seen as a nice, rich, a good, rich chocolate part, and it's shaken back into the drinks.
Okay. Next question, can Citri-Fi 125 be used towards a fiber claim?
Sure, it can be used towards a fiber claim, but it's probably not going to be a sole source of fiber because our usage levels are anywhere from 0.2% to maybe as much as 2%, but that would be a very, very high concentration. So it's going to, of course, contribute to the fiber count, but in the United States, that 2% fiber is probably not going to lead to a source of good fiber claim on the label.
Okay, thank you for that. We have another question. It goes back to your freeze-thaw question or response. So,
Okay.
follow-up to the freeze-thaw stability question. Modified food starches are commonly used to provide freeze-thaw stability, but many efforts to exclude modified starch are being made to clean up the labels. So, can you go to a native starch plus Citri-Fi to get freeze-thaw stability?
I'm actually checking this out right now. There is a possibility, but if the starch granules explode as they can do with ice crystals, I'm just not sure of this yet. We haven't proven it, but this is something that we are taking a look at right now.
Excellent. And I'll add on to it. When I used to work with starches in the past, we used a lot of native rice starch, especially the waxy version for freeze-thaw stability. It was very effective. So there's a possibility, in addition to Nisha and the R&D team working on this stuff, that rice starch might be also another opportunity to put together with Citri-Fi. Okay, next question. In burger patties, how does it compare to carrot fiber?
Well, if we have a couple of studies that indicate that carrot fiber does give up water relatively easily, where Citri-Fi does not. So definitely try. You can replace our product for the with the carrots for the carrot fiber, and I think that you'll find a superior, very superior product.
Okay. How does Citri-Fi 125 compare to other citrus fibers on the market?
That's a good question, and we actually get this asked quite a bit. Most of the other citrus fibers out there are a byproduct of the pectin manufacturing process, and so all of those other citrus fibers have had the pectin, that the soluble fiber portion, stripped out, and that's sold separately. So they're actually two different product streams. So because we are the whole fiber and we've never been touched by any kind of a chemical, only water, we're all natural, and we still have that soluble fiber portion, and that makes it a very functional fiber as compared with the other other citrus fibers out there.
Okay, great. Another question. So this goes to this is about frozen bread products. So frozen bread products, which one is better, 100 or 125?
That's a good question. I think that for frozen bread products, I would try the 125 first. And the reason being is that most of the frozen products out there are darker in color, and because both 100 and 125 are going to be functional and add nice moisture management in those systems, but the 125 you could potentially add more water and still have a very stable product. And this would mean that when the consumer pulls it out and then toasts it, or starts to consume the bread, that it's actually going to be moisture in the long run. So I would probably start with the 125, and then if they're not happy with it, then try the 100.
Okay. We have another question. Will Citri-Fi 125 absorb oil when it's not hydrated?
That's a good question. It doesn't really. It disperses very well in oil, and in fact, this is a good method for dispersing the product. But it doesn't really hang on to the oil until it's actually hydrated.
Okay, and it looks like we have one more question. Can Citri-Fi replace native starch as in the Novation products? This is used in vegetarian patties for formability.
For formability, I don't know that a product would give quite enough viscosity for the formability. So that's a good question, and I don't think I know the answer to it until I've actually done it myself. Jen, do you have any insight here?
I think the only thing that Amanda has tested some of our Citri-Fi and some of the vegetarian patties, and a lot of it was for binding some of the components in it and also providing some texture, so it wasn't like mushy or soft. So, and they didn't dry out. A lot of the vegetarian patties, depending on your cooking method, sometimes they dry out really quick. And I know that some of the studies that Amanda was working on, the Citri-Fi was actually retaining that moisture during the cooking process, so it helps. So those are some of the functionalities it does provide, but for formability, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I think that definitely look at it for moisture management, but I don't know that our product on its own would help with formability. So that's you're going to have to try it and see type of answer. Sorry.
That's great. So there are a lot of great questions, a lot of participation, but we've reached our time limit. So this concludes our Q&A session, and as I mentioned, the session was recorded. It's going to be available to you. I'll be sending a mass email out next week that's going to contain the link to the distributor portal where you'll be able to access the PowerPoint as well as the recorded version. So or you can contact your Fiberstar rep for additional information. So there's going to be a survey after this webinar, so when you close down your webinar box, the survey should pop up. Please fill this out. This actually does help us out improve our webinars in the future. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for your participation and enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you.